fails. So the person who really wanted this report done fast and quick, Barbieri, he's not here. Or Dixon.
Ooh.
I think we're the only two presenters. I think we're the only two presenters today.
Yeah. I remember, like, before they used to ask you to come up, but it's okay.
Joyce, we need 4 for a quorum.
We need one more.
One more,
Oh,
okay.
okay, thank you.
We're going to wait a few more minutes and see if we can get at least one more committee member so we can have a quorum. Have we got a quorum?
Yep.
Ooh, okay. Well, good morning and welcome to the Audit Committee meeting of February 18th. Joyce, if you'll do the roll call, please.
Dave Talley,
Here.
Tammy McDonald, Alyssa Dewan,
Here.
Michael Dixon, Mark Bymaster, Kathleen Weigel, Leandre Camel.
Here.
Okay.
Okay. So
We have a
do
quorum.
I think we'll start down this end. Blair, we'll do some introductions, please.
Blair Littlejohn from the Office of General Counsel.
Good morning, Joseph Sanchez, Chief Operating Officer.
Justin Katz, the Teachers Union.
Bob Bliss, Office of Inspector General.
Randy Lowe, Office of Inspector General.
Kerry High, Counsel to the Inspector General.
Dave Talley, Audit Committee.
Teresa Michael, Inspector General.
Joyce Edison, Executive Assistant.
Leandre Camel, Audit Committee.
Mark Bymaster, Audit Committee.
Heather Frederick, Chief Financial Officer.
Chantel Knowles, RSM.
Michael, you can introduce yourself since you just got here.
I apologize for being late.
Problem.
Michael Dixon, Audit Committee. Thank you.
Okay. Back here, introductions.
James Churchill, Director of Transportation.
Curtis Duffy, Manager, Chief Operating Office.
Okay, and over there?
Susie Kay, Office of Inspector General.
Aida Smith, Office of Inspector General.
Great. Well, it's nice to have all of you with us. If you'll take a minute and look at the agenda, and if it looks satisfactory, I'd accept a motion to approve the agenda.
Mr. Chair, Leandre moves to accept the agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Pass unanimously. Next, I ask you to review in your packet the minutes of the January 14th meeting. Take a minute to look at that, and after you've had a chance to look at it, either if there are any corrections, please note those. Otherwise, I'll accept a motion to approve.
I have a comment on the minutes, Mr. Chair. As I get my new badge ready here. There was a comment here where I had asked some questions, and they were answered by one of the staff. But how it reads, it doesn't address my questions, nor does it address the answers. And it says, Bob Bliss, Officer of Compliance and Quality Assurance, addressed all of Mr. Dixon's questions. I specifically had some questions that I asked on the topic, and they're not listed in here. And the answers aren't listed in here. And I think for the record, they should be. That's my only comment. Thank you.
Okay, well, can we at some point amend the minutes to include that, Joyce? Okay, with that amendment, is there a motion to approve the amended committee meeting minutes of January 14th?
I'll motion to approve.
I'll second.
Discussion? All in favor? All
Aye.
opposed? Pass unanimously.
Mr. Chair.
Public comments?
Mr. Chair, before we move forward, I did have a comment. What, if we could going forward, we just want to say full recording, see full recording of the minutes is what, it'll direct all that's looking through the minutes or reviewing them to actually also go, you hit those high points. So I agree with you in hitting the high points. But just let's direct everyone to the full recordings of our recorded minutes.
Okay.
We can do that.
It's like it's a tape, so just see it in the minutes as well as those high points.
Well,
Good
yeah,
comment.
I mean, that's what's in our book today, the minutes, and I don't know how a tape could be put in here, but I'm fine, whatever way you want to do it. I'm just commenting, you made a comment, that's all.
We can certainly add that in there, and we can also look at time stamping different issues, if that would help, direct, so that you don't have to go through the whole audio if somebody is looking for something in particular. You can time stamp it, that might help somebody where they can look right to that moment. That might be of,
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Are there any public comments? Hearing none, we'll move to item 4, audit reports, unannounced on-site observations of school safety devices. Terry? We did. Yeah. Well, we'll go back. I thought we had a motion and approved the minutes, the amended minutes. I think we did.
Yeah, we did,
Yeah.
we did.
It was Leandra and Michael. Okay. Now we'll go to item 4. Terry?
okay. Item number 4 is the unannounced on-site observation of school bus devices. This was done by our audit division, and today Susie Kay will be presenting. She is the supervisor for the audit unit. She does an amazing job, and this is just one more of her many duties that she does for the audit division. Susie?
I'm not sure if that duty is to present or to do the work. Good morning, everybody. This was a full team project where back on September 27th, we went to all of the 6 compounds within the school district and did an unannounced on-site observation. We show up basically at 9 in the morning and say, hi, we're here to look at your school buses. And we ask for a mechanic to assist us. So if you go on to the next slide, Joyce. The objectives of our observations are specifically to determine if safety devices on school buses were in a working condition. And we looked specifically at these 4 categories. We looked at what they call a post-trip passenger check system, which sometimes is known as a child alert system. We looked at the student crossing arm that opens up on the front of the bus bumper. We looked at the stop signal arms on the side of the bus, and we also looked to see that the video camera systems were functioning that day. Next slide. So these are follow-up. This is kind of a continuous thing we've been working on now since around 2017, 2016. And this, if you go to the next slide, please. These were just the results of the 2 prior reports that we have issued in the past. And you can already see that there was some serious improvements starting just between the 2017 report and 2019. And if you go to the next slide, you'll see that based on our most recent observation, there's been even more increased improvement. So the way we did our observation is at each of the compounds, we selected 15 buses that had been supposed to be that day operational and transporting students. I ran into the situation where the mechanic didn't quite understand me, and he picked me one bus that was what they call like a backup bus. It was an operational bus, but it hadn't actually gone out and driven that day. So, but for the most part, we got everything that we were after. One of the compounds, the staff members were very wise. They stood at the gate and they wrote down the bus number for each bus that drove in, and that's what buses they picked. And then when they got back on the bus, one of the buses wouldn't restart. Happens. You can do that in your own driveway. But out of the 90 buses that we did look at, we only had 4 that the child alert system did not give off an audible signal. And for the student crossing arm on the front, we had 4 buses that they did not deploy fully out. The specification requires that the arm go out perpendicular to the front bumper. And in these 4 situations, it would partially open. And actually, Joyce, if you go to the next slide.
Before you go on, I just want to point out that it's very interesting that the central and west bus compounds had no exceptions at all.
Exactly.
That's great. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
So this is examples of what we were talking about, where the arm didn't deploy fully open. We had 3 that opened up, I think, like 3/4 of the way, and 1 that only opened up halfway. And then we had 1 camera that was not showing any life on that given day. So moving forward, the other thing we also look at is all school buses are required to have they have a mandatory safety inspection that has to be done every 30 days. So we looked at the inspection reports to make sure that each of the buses we observed had their safety inspection within the 30-day interval, which they had 100%. We also verified that all of the buses had been inspected by a certified safety inspector. Moving on. One of the requirements for the bus drivers is at the beginning and end of their shifts each day is to complete a pre- and post-trip inspection report. It's kind of a checklist of safety devices and items to make sure that the buses are functioning, and it documents that the bus was in good working condition. So we requested for the day before, not the day of, but the day before we were there, we asked for them, one more. Oh, you're going back, that one, that's where we're at. That's okay. So what we did is we asked for the most recent report. So we were there on the 27th, which was a Monday. We asked for the reports for Friday, the 24th, on the presumption that the reports would be complete and would be turned in. So out of the 90 buses, we were unable to locate any inspection reports for 12. Now, some of those buses, is like I said, in my situation, it turned out that one of my buses had been a spare and hadn't even been ridden that year. It was an operational bus. We got on the bus, we checked all the equipment, but there was no safety inspection report for that. There was no pre and post inspection report for the 24th because it hadn't ridden. Out of the 76 reports that we did receive, 29 of them were not completed fully, in that the post-inspection part of the trip had not been, it was not documented. They may actually have done it, but they may not have signed off on the report. They may not have checked off the boxes to indicate that they did the inspection. So this was something that management in their response said that they're continuing to emphasize that with the drivers that they need to complete these forms. One of the other items that the form documents is if the driver reports a broken signal arm, it's reported on this document, and then the mechanics can follow up with repair. And the last conclusion had to do with bus footage, or the video footage from the bus cameras. And the original bid spec asked for the buses to have a storage capability, the DVRs to have a storage capability of 30 days. So what we did is we selected 2 of the buses that we observed from each of the 6 compounds for a total of 12. Well, apparently, in order to obtain the video footage, the technicians for the bus compounds had to go out to each individual bus and download it to a thumb drive from the DVR directly. So if by the end of the 22 days was when we finally received the footage, only 4 buses still had footage available for the day we were there. We were trying to get footage of the time period that we were actually on the bus, because we sit there and we wave in front of the bus and go hi, you know, in front of the camera. Of the 4 we got, you could observe all the, you know, the auditors being on the bus itself. The rest of them probably at that point, as it was reported to us, the other 8 buses, the footage had been recorded over with new data, which would indicate that the spec is not being met from the purchase specification, and that there's not enough capacity on these DVRs. So in their response, management said they're currently working on a project to upgrade the DVRs for wireless on-demand video retrieval and also to increase storage capacity. And that concludes our report.
Okay, questions and comments of committee members?
I have a couple comments, please, or questions. How many it's probably in here, and I missed it. How many buses are there?
Total?
Yeah.
I apologize, I don't know that number off my head.
How many? 850 buses. 850. So we sampled, you sampled 10% of them. Okay, cool. Over the last, where does this function fit into the structure of the school district with respect to responsibility? Who has responsibility over this area?
Mr. Searchwell, can you answer?
Barbie?
It's operations, that comes under operations.
Operations?
Mr. Sanchez.
The director and transportation is one of the departments that reports to me as the chief operating officer.
Okay. So this, and how long have, sir, how long have you been in this position? I'm sorry.
Today's Shane's birthday, so
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Shane.
Happy birthday.
great way to celebrate the birthday.
Okay, yeah, so I've been in the department 15 years now, and I've been the director since 2008. But I've been a rock solid force in there.
So from the prior 2019 to now, this report, do you find this like satisfactory?
Believe me, knowing what has happened over the past 2 years,
Yes.
transportation has undergone, as well as much as everybody else around here, have undergone some serious transitions, moving through all the COVID issues, particularly with the bus drivers collecting data. They had to be collecting data for students on a daily basis, the contact tracing. We do go out in the parking lot and observe them physically during the pre-trip, post-trip, but because we didn't have enough staff in the facility, therein lied the weakness. But we had been really moving an effort to reduce these challenges, and it's moving in the right direction, I'd say that.
Thank you.
I'm not satisfied because I want to see 0. Because the inspection, for example, we were having problems 2 years ago. Now we're 100% with the inspections, and that's what we're trying to do.
Okay, other comments?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, I'm asking regarding usage. Are you able to tell which compounds have the highest usage? Buses are going the most? Is it
The most usage in terms of how many routes that they have? Is that the question?
Yes.
Yeah, we have very detailed analytics about about our usage of our buses. We know, of course, we have routes that are predetermined, and we take attendance on the buses twice a year, so we have information about how many students are riding on each route each day. Well, pretty much within that survey period, I should say, not every single day.
So I'm looking at what's driving that question. I'm looking at the pre and post trip inspections and the safety devices that's operating on the buses. Are those the highest use compound? Are they getting the adequate personnel, mechanics to ensure that everything is?
Well,
we're looking at those that's getting the highest and best use in the county.
I'll start and then turn it over to you. The
Yes.
start of the answer is that obviously our facilities are not equally distributed in workload, right? So, Central is very heavy, South is very heavy. west is not very heavy. So so the resources are allocated based upon the volume of services that we provide from each one of those facilities. I'm not a favor of the word compound for some reason, but so we allocate resources accordingly. Shane, you want to add to that?
Hey, perfect. The resources are there. What impacted us, if you recall, during this period, I had to shut down practically every single facility at least twice over the year. And when these audits were being done, we were going through some of those challenges. So we have the resources, just that the resources were being affected by outside forces.
All right, thank you. And that is what I was asking in regards to volume at the for each facility.
I have another question, just so I understand what we're talking about here. Yes. These post-trip inspections, are they manually done, or are they automated somehow?
Manual.
Manual.
Paper-based system right now.
So someone has to take those papers, and what do they do with them?
They file these papers, the drivers go through and they make their checks on these papers.
Right.
Then they turn them into the staff. The staff then reviews them. If there are any challenges that they've come across, they turn it over to the mechanics, and it's a 3-part form. The mechanic gets one and they do the repairs on it. If there's nothing, then it's get filed away so that we can prove that we are doing this process later.
Michael, I refer you to page 10, and you can see there's the form that they have to fill out.
And it's manual?
Yes.
Yeah, it's manual. Well, why I asked that is because several meetings prior to this meeting today, we talked about automating some of the things here in the school district. And this seems like a ton of data that's manually being done by people. I don't know how many people. And then, I mean, if this could be automated, we talked about this automation going forward. Okay, we made that a priority that we're recommending, that I recommended when we were. I forget how it came up when we were talking about this initially, but this is a very typical example, and this could probably save a lot of effort on a lot of people's time and get much better data on a more timely basis if we tried to address this with your automation people. I don't know. That's my comment.
We're 100% in favor of doing that. I mean, I would love for our one of the things that we're implementing is tablets on our buses, right? And they're actually already on the buses. So we can expand the capabilities of them. You know, you do things in phases. You don't do everything at one time. But this may be an opportunity for us to incorporate the pre and post inspections with that tablet.
What are they doing with the tablets on the buses now?
Shane, I'll let them explain better than I can.
Well, the plan is for us to create something called planned versus actual for routing, where the driver, we could get turn-by-turn directions. He would see his entire route.
Yes.
Yeah, he would see his entire route on that tablet and be able to accurately drive through that route. Even if it's a replacement driver covering that route, they would be able to do that kind of stuff with it.
I wouldn't think this would be a difficult thing to add on to that. I mean, where would this go? As a comment, and somebody follow up.
I hear you.
I would. I'll take a piece of that if you don't mind. So we have a very robust project management team within our IT department, and they do an excellent job. But they don't have enough people right now, like everybody else doesn't have enough people. So I would suggest that this can be something that could be put on their roadmap, and then we'll have to ask them when they can have the staff to implement that effort. Because obviously this is something that takes some time and effort. It's not as simple as flipping the switch. We have to look at all the other departments that are impacted by it. Maybe not a lot in this case. But that's something that we have to look at in terms of priority of what they're doing, because they're doing a number of things for us, including item number 4 on here, which is the video. Yeah. That's part of what that department helps us manage and implement.
I would think that this particular topic that we're talking about, school buses, is a high priority for the children. Yes. I mean, safety-wise, I can't imagine too many things being more higher in priority. So anything we could do to improve the safety and the conditions of the buses that are moving all these children around should be, like, I don't know how, I'd like to make a motion that we can't put this on the list, whatever list you're talking about with your IT people. I would like to make that motion that we do that, make that a priority for going forward. I don't know how we do that. I'm just commenting on this report.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Leandre second with a question.
Okay, discussion?
You want them to bring back the cost, a cost factor in addition to the DVR system? I want to understand that.
No. We got a tablet in the bus now. It's doing a GPS, it sounds like, right?
Yes.
Right.
Why not put another application on here where the driver can check out his bus at the end of the day and put it on, that goes into the system?
He's just saying that the inspection reports would just be on the tablet instead of paper.
Right, I made it more complicated than what I was trying to say. Sorry.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Michael, would you restate your motion, please?
The motion would be to approach the IT department to make this a priority for the tablets that are being implemented. I guess the plan is, well, this is not a motion, now I'm talking. Sorry. The motion is to ask the IT people to look at the tablets on the buses to implement some of these checkout procedures pre and post at the end of the day, and get rid of the paper.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there
My
any
second
further
still
discussion?
stands.
If there's no further discussion, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I would like to say it appears since the last observations that a lot of improvement has been made. However, there's no doubt that there's got to be some follow-up very soon. And I don't know how often or when you have slated to do another unannounced observation, but I'd like to see one done soon. Or within your, with what
Yeah.
type of parameters or time frame would you look at?
We can do an unannounced at any time. That is not an issue. Randy's team, our audit work plan is flexible for all issues, and we can adjust that and add that. We also do a 6-month follow-up to see how things are being corrected. But we can schedule an unannounced. I think I don't want to say the date right now. That might kind of defeat the purpose. But we can do that and do an unannounced visit
So
again.
you're scheduled to do a 6-month.
We could do a follow-up to see how the corrective actions are going, but we can schedule another unannounced inspection of the buses.
What's the pleasure of the committee in terms of having an unannounced visit prior to the 6 months? Is that satisfactory with you all?
Sure.
Okay,
Agree.
Sure.
good.
We can schedule that.
Okay, then all in favor of this report as presented, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Aye. Passed unanimously. Okay, we'll go to item 5, internal funds audit. Terry?
This is just an update on the internal funds audit that we have going on. We are almost done. And
Wow.
it's a Herculean effort by our audit team to go through and do an internal funds audit of every single school and addressing issues and following up, and any issues that rise to the level of an investigation is referred over. So this is, this isn't just checking the boxes. There's some in-depth work that's done in that, and I want to commend Randy and his team on that. And we should have the report, you finished it yesterday, right? So we should have it tomorrow?
Good morning, everybody. All the field work for the schools have been completed. We are in the process of working on the overall management letter for the CFO office review and comments. And we expect to have the final report for this committee's review and approval at the April meeting.
Okay, are there any comments?
A question, Ms. Michael. What is the time period on this? Is this a June 30 cutoff?
There is no cutoff.
Well, Oh,
I mean,
when do you start again?
oh, we start again at the school year. We start at the beginning of school year.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So this is pretty,
This
this
is
is
for the
pretty
FY
accelerated.
'21
Yes.
fiscal
It's
year.
very
Yeah,
accelerated.
we do one a year. So every school is audited, so we will, they're doing an amazing job, as you said,
It's
on
very
getting those done.
accelerated, because I don't remember, as of February, having all these done already.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. It's great.
Okay, any further discussion? If not, I'll accept a motion to accept this report.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor, all opposed, passed unanimously. Okay, we'll go to item 6, compliance and contract reviews, and I'll turn it over to Bob. You're welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
My name is Bob Bliss. I'm the Officer of Compliance and Quality Assurance in the IG's office. One of the things I do is manage our 6-month follow-up process on prior audit recommendations. So as a matter of routine, our office follows up on corrective actions taken by management to address findings from prior audits, reviews, and investigations. About 6 months after we issue a report, we ask management to provide us with the status of corrective actions taken to correct previously reported deficiencies. And we do the 6-month follow-up for all recommendations except those that are made to individual schools through our annual internal funds audit, which we just discussed. Our auditors follow up on those recommendations as part of each recurring annual audit. In the past 3 years, besides the annual internal funds audit recommendations, we followed up on an additional 200 recommendations made to management to determine if the planned corrective actions were implemented. Now, just a few of those recommendations have not been implemented, so we attached a spreadsheet to your agenda that summarizes those recommendations. It's sorted by report date from the oldest to the newest. If you look at the column near the middle that says number of recommendations outstanding, you can see that there's a total of 6 recommendations that have not been fully implemented. We also provide a brief description of the current status of those. We have been and we will continue to follow up on these until the plan of corrective action is implemented or the recommendation is no longer applicable. And I know this was a discussion at the last meeting, so we're presenting this today.
Yeah, this is great. This is great. We did talk about this last time. This is really good. Can I ask a question? Sure. Confidential. Is someone stonewalling this thing? The response here? I mean, look at the dates on this.
That has to do with the crisis response, and I kind of figured that there might be some questions followed up on this. And what we can do is do a closed session,
Yeah.
if you would like, and we can have the chief here so that he can explain. We have had numerous changes in our school police chiefs, so that may have impacted it. But I would rather for them to speak to what their holdup is in achieving those recommendations and those issues. So if the committee would like to have a closed session to address that, we can arrange that.
Well, if I'm gonna just ask to be approving this report, I would like to have that done. I have no idea what I would be agreeing to. What's confidential mean? I mean, holy smoke.
Again, we know some of the details
I know you do.
related.
I'm sure you do.
Yes.
I'm sure you do.
Mr. Chair, do we need a formal motion for that? Or are you making a motion, Mr. Dixon?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we find out a little bit, if anybody else on the committee is interested in following up on this.
Because I think what we could do is maybe just schedule before the next audit committee meeting, maybe 20, 30 minutes closed session and invite the chief.
I would like to talk to the chief, make sure he's available, and then what we can do is either schedule it, a closed session. It also depends on your all's calendar as well. We may want to do it before or after our next audit committee meeting so that you guys aren't coming in for a second trip, and make sure that the chief is available.
That's a good idea.
All right, so what we'll do is I'll reach out to the chief, we'll see if he's available so he can come in and speak, and we'll work with the general counsel's office, and our counsel will work with them on what we need to do to set up a closed session.
That's fine, thank you. That's my
Okay, Bob,
motion.
let's go to contract review, please.
Okay, the next item on the report is a contract review of the modernization of Verde Elementary School. Ida Smith from our office performed the work on that review, so I'll turn over the presentation to her.
Good morning. I'm Aida Smith, and I handle special reviews for construction and contracts. This particular review was for the Moss and Associates to modernize Verde Elementary School. The objective for this review was to determine if the deliverables were received and if payments were appropriate and properly approved. The scope of this project was from January 1st, 2019 through May 31st, 2021. Upon conclusion of the review, we had 5 conclusions. So the first conclusion was, overall, we concluded the construction manager provided key deliverables and that their monthly payment applications were compliant with contractual terms, except otherwise noted in this report, which I will shortly go over. The district management responded that no action is needed for this first conclusion, and also the vendor agreed as well. The second conclusion, the district amended the contract to add $945,000, which was an increase of 19.3% for a significant scope change rather than competitively bidding out the additional work. By not re-advertising significant additional project scope and value, the district may not have complied with competitive solicitation requirements outlined in Florida statute and school board policy, which would be the CNNA policy. Our recommendation was management should enhance their processes to allow for more accurate initial estimates of facility needs and costs prior to initiating a competitive solicitation. In summary, the management response, management stated they implemented a more detailed process for initial project scoping and estimation prior to the RFP to ensure competitive solicitation processes are maintained when necessary. And we have David Dolan here if you want to speak a little bit more detail into that, but I will move on to conclusion number 3. The construction manager apparently overbilled the district, and the district overpaid $73,155 for insurance. The construction manager's payment applications did not include sufficient backup to substantiate the amount they billed the district for insurance. After our inquiries, it was discovered the CM had overbilled for the insurances on the combined projects and will be issuing a refund check. Department procedures require invoices and backup documentation for bonds and insurance billings. We have a few recommendations to go forward. We recommend that staff independently verify the total amount the district should have reimbursed the construction manager for SDI, which is a subcontractor default insurance. We also recommend that staff strengthen their procedures for reviewing the accuracy and appropriateness of amounts contractors bill for insurance, including reviewing sufficient backup, documentation, and supports the amounts billed/paid. We also recommend that verifying and maintaining proof of all insurance purchases with public funds, therefore supplying like a certificate of insurance. Also, adding a line to the district's construction manager payment application checklist, which is their specific process, to include backup for bonds and insurance. In summary, the district's response was, the district recorded receipts of $71,155.28 for reimbursement of the overpayment on December 13th. The district stated that staff and AECom, which is the program manager, have subsequently trained project controls on staff appropriate documentation for insurance payments. So basically, the $73,000 was recovered and swiftly deposited. On to number 4, the subcontractor payment applications were not signed or notarized as required. The Program Management's department procedures require subcontractors to submit signed and notarized payment applications. Without signed and notarized forms, there is less assurance the work as was completed as stated and the amounts billed are accurate. Our recommendation was for staff to perform more thorough reviews of payment applications to help ensure compliance with significant provisions of contract documents. We also recommend procedures be enhanced to include requiring receipt of signed and notarized subcontractor payment applications prior to approving payment, and that this requirement be added to the program manager's CM progress payment application checklist. In summary, the district's response was district staff and AECOM, the program manager, have subsequently trained project controls, the staff to look at the omission on all future payment applications. And lastly, the final conclusion is the construction manager did not provide contractor furnished property logs as required. The contractor furnished equipment logs are used to track assets, small tools, and equipment purchased with project funds. The construction manager's monthly payment applications did not include the logs, although they are required by the department procedures. By not documenting and keeping track of equipment and small tools purchased with public funds, there is less assurance that all valuable tools and equipment will be returned/credited to the district when the project is complete. Our recommendation is that the facilities construction staff should adhere to written procedures when reviewing payment applications. We recommend the program management's CM progress payment application checklist be updated to include the contractor furnished equipment log. The district's response is that this procedure will be reinstated to ensure that all contractor furnished equipment will be properly recorded in the future. And the response from the vendor is that they will provide the requested documentation with the monthly billings. And that is the end of my report.
Well done. Questions, comments of committee members?
I guess the biggest issue here is the Offsite holding school. This might be out of topic, but after the school was completed, what happened to the construction of the Offsite holding school? Is it just empty?
So the school was used for, holding school for 2 schools. It was used for Verdi and for Edison Meisner. So for 2 years, it was used as a holding school. And these were rented portable classrooms. So after we finished the use of them for temporary holding schools, we returned the portables and restored actually the site is being used for the construction of now Blue Lake Elementary School.
Okay.
I want to step back a minute on this topic. How did this originate, this review? How did this happen? What's the process that this came forward from 19 till now? I mean, could you help me understand this for a minute?
Yeah, sure. Every year when we put together our annual work plan, Randy focuses on the audits for the year, and our focuses on what we want to do that year. And because we focus on contracts, obviously the higher dollar contracts the district has are the most risky, so we focus on those. And this school was a $36 million project, so we just picked it from our own professional judgment.
And how does that rank in the projects that you looked at? Is this top, bottom, middle? I mean, I'm just asking for my own understanding.
It's near the top end, and
Top end?
yeah, timing
Okay.
is also a factor too, on when we want to look at it. In the beginning of the project, the end of the project, and this one was completed, so we picked this one.
And this overbilling Was that, when you picked the project, do you audit that project? Is that what we're doing?
Well, it's similar to an audit, yes.
So, yeah, okay,
So it's basically a compliance contract review. We read the contract,
right?
and we just use our judgment to figure out what are the risky areas for compliance, and then we develop steps to test those.
And was it your department that found the 71,000?
Well, what had happened is
How did that happen?
we had asked for backup documentation to support the expense,
Okay,
and we asked for the policies themselves.
okay,
And in response to those questions, the vendor
yeah,
indicated that there was an apparent overbilling.
okay. I'm just trying to understand the process.
There's-
I'm not disputing, I think it's great what you did there.
Aida, do you have anything to add? Did I get that right?
Yes, the review is basically an overview of all the deliverables, but the documentation as well. So in looking at insurance for a project, we are looking for the certificate of insurance. And there was just a quote rather than an official certificate of insurance. So as Bob said, when we started asking questions,
Right, they can't
they could
substantiate
not
the-
provide
I
a
got it,
certificate of
yeah.
insurance, and therefore, we were able to see that there was a difference in, now, part of their description of the overbilling was because of the additional holding school, that they separated into
Yeah,
two
yeah.
contracts, and there was some overlapping.
Right. Can I ask one more question? I'm sorry. How much staff time was involved in this investigation? Do we keep track of that?
The review, this is a review.
Or this review?
Mm-hmm.
This review, the whole process? Do you keep track of that?
The answer is yes, we keep track of that, and I don't have the hours at my fingertips at this moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the three different sections that we have, reviews are done by Green Book standards, which is the Association of Inspector General. It is an audit, but we don't have to follow the exact standards as audit standards are done. So they have a little bit more leeway on some things, and it's more proactive. Because as they're reviewing all of the procurements, they're seeing how things are going, they're seeing how contracts are being awarded, and so they have a big familiarity on construction contracts. So they're able to key in on those things. That's where that adds that. If there is, during their review, something is audit, if they find something that looks like it's a fraud, then we'll refer it over to the investigations unit, and they'll do the investigation. And they'll work in concert with the contract review, and they will be the SMEs on that project.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay,
The
additional comments? Yeah, Mark?
To get back to this off-site holding facility, I think that comes down to just poor planning on the RFP itself. Because to not anticipate to needing a $6 million change seems like you would, when you're planning this new project, you would know that, oh, we're going to have this off-site before you bid to build the school. So you have this other off-site that is, I guess, is going to be built another school on that site. So if you planned it accordingly, you could have built the other school, used it as a holding, and then transfer the kids back where the other one was being built, and then open the other school, and you wouldn't have spent $6 million.
May I?
Yes.
So your analysis is partially correct, because that's almost exactly what I said when I got here in October, right? until I was educated about the background about what happened. So that was exactly the plan. The plan was to build what is now called Blue Lake Elementary School, use that as a holding school for both Verdi and Edison Meisner, and then rebuild those two schools, and then use Blue Lake for its intended purposes. That was exactly the plan that we wanted to do. Unfortunately, the Department of Education would not allow us to build Blue Lake Elementary School, and because of that, we were forced to spend the $5 to $6 million on a temporary school and then use it. So we agree with your assessment. So it's very astute of you to make that observation. That's proper planning.
Okay.
Okay, further comments?
Yeah, one last comment. Also, you noted, I think in your report here, that bills were being paid without the proper notarization and sign-off from the school district? I mean, isn't that a very basic thing in your in the process?
Not from the school district.
Oh,
There was a couple findings. One was the insurance that we talked about, as far as having, there was some backup, but it wasn't adequate in our opinion. But maybe you're talking about the subcontractor pay applications were not signed and notarized. We found a few of those.
well, who pays the subcontractor? The main contractor?
Construction manager,
Oh,
yes,
okay,
yes.
okay, got it. Okay, thank you. That makes a difference. Okay.
Any further comments or discussion?
Yes, Leander here. With the information presented by Mr. Sanchez in regards to what DOE had some dealings with the $5.8 million, can the report reflect that, unless I'm overlooking it?
I believe it's in there in the response from management on that.
So.
Yeah, that is correct. There's,
I'm not sure that our response is included in the actual,
Page 6 of the report, down at the bottom, it mentions that FDOE did not approve the construction of 05-C in time to utilize the site as a holding school.
There it is.
Okay. Yeah. We don't want it to look as if, that appearance as if the 5.8 million was just, yeah. That's how it appears. When
Right.
it's-
And I think that that was the initial, and then management responded and provided what had happened in trying to get that, and that's, and Heather, is there anything else that you'd like to add?
no, but yeah, in our response, I'm sorry, I guess just I got the one copy that doesn't have a response in here, but we did provide all the history that Mr. Sanchez had mentioned as to what the initial plan was, why the plans changed, and why we ended up with the expanded scope of the holding school. We always knew we were going to have a holding school. It just ended up getting expanded based on changes that are definitely going to occur when you're building a new school.
We didn't receive an RFP challenge, did we?
We did not.
Further discussion?
I have one more question. Of these type of projects that you look at every year to plan on doing, I know you don't know the exact answer here. What is the dollar amount of these projects every year that you have to select from? For example, this was 35 million. Do you look at, is it 100 million on a base? Or is it 20 million? I mean, do you
Yeah,
have any idea, just so I understand a little bit better?
yeah, not really, not at the moment. You're correct, I don't have that information at this moment. Right. We have to go back and look at our annual reports and add that up.
Part of the audit plan, we will look at what we've addressed previously and make sure that we're not duplicating anything. And if there's anything that we find, something like this, where we see an issue, we may apply that depending on the responses from management for the next year. So this, definitely something like this.
In
Right.
topic.
Right. And we will move forward, and if there's any issues that the audit committee, or if there's a specific area that you would like us to do a review on, or something that comes up in the news, whatever that may be, and also management also brings forward different times where they say that they want to have us look at something. So we'll remain flexible on that.
Well, I think you're doing fine. I was just trying to understand a little bit better on how the selection process goes.
Yeah, we tend to pick the higher dollar contracts, but also if there's any red flags that we're aware of during the year, because we attend all the monthly construction oversight and review committee
right,
meetings.
Right, so you know where the issues could be.
And they discuss a lot of potential issues at those meetings, yes.
That's right. Okay, thank you.
Okay, further discussion? If none, I'll ask for a motion to approve the contract review of modernization of Verde Elementary School.
I'll make a motion to approve the
For a
report.
second?
A second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed unanimously. Okay, investigative reports, misuse of technology. This was previously sent to you all by email by Joyce, so there's no need at this point to have any discussion on it. In terms of general comments, Terry, in terms of the first item that we discussed, the audit of crisis response plans of district schools, what's the thought on when we can get together? Is it possible to do it prior to our next board meeting, or is it necessary that we should have another meeting?
I believe that if we can do it either immediately before, or probably immediately after, because I don't think anybody wants to be here at 7 o'clock in the morning for a closed session. We may, do it after our next audit committee meeting, if that's immediately following, if the chief is available and can come and speak. Our next audit committee meeting, we will have the presentation on the background screening unit that the audit committee requested. That's for our 6-month follow-up. Jay Bogus, the chief of staff, I've been communicating with him. They have been working towards that. I have been getting updates on how they're moving forward, the different implementations and everything. So they will come forward next audit committee and make the presentation on how they're progressing on the IT, and the issues between background screening and hiring. So that'll be on for the next audit committee meeting.
Well, unless anyone has any objections, let's plan to do what Terry suggested, and that is after our regular audit committee meeting of March 25th, perhaps we can address this issue.
So time-wise, what do we not need to do here, time-wise? Is that till like 10:30?
Well, normally, it might be a later date, yes.
So I know how to do
Yeah,
my-
because we will have the presentation from, HR, IT, and everybody, so that's going to extend that committee meeting a little bit longer than normal.
Okay.
And then if we can have the closed session, that'll also add that as well. So it might be a lengthier day.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is there anything else to come before the committee?
I have one more comment, I'm sorry. Wound up today, huh? When we get copies of these investigative reports by email, for example, the employee retaliation one that was just sent out, I think, a couple days ago, I think. I have to be honest, it was 355 pages, and I just didn't have time to read or look at 355 pages. Could you, in 2 minutes, summarize what this is about? I mean, I read the first 5 or 6 pages, so I get the gist of it, but is there anything that you would like to share?
Let's see, is there any prohibition from me making any discussion about that case, councils?
I mean, you're sending it to us.
Right, yes.
There is pending litigation.
That's fine, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, is there any other business? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Approved, meeting adjourned. Thank you, and we'll see you on March 25th, if not before.